Faustian bargain, the deal with the devil, Western civilization is going to move more into a Dostoevsky Christianity. And the elites know that this is going to happen.
Klaus and Yuval Harari have both said there is no conscience, there is no free will. However, when transhumanist singularity is here, we'll upload your consciousness to the cloud.
Reconciliation of opposing forces through Pazuzu and Lilith. I'm going to throw that out there. This all goes back to Carl Jung, who was a Gnostic, the Gnostic God. There you go. Man, we're on the same wavelength. Yeah, Abraxas.
All-seeing eye that pops up when he's explaining, well, that's the power structure that made him big time.
The fourth degree of the Ordo Templi Orientis, they call it the fire goddess, and that's what the symbol is supposed to represent. And it says, raise the arms above the head and join the hands so that the tips of the fingers and the thumbs meet, formulating a triangle.
Yo, what up? It's DOENUT, and you tuning into all your Illuminati news. And I am so grateful. Oh my goodness, my dreams have come true. Jay Dyer, Isaac Weishaupt, the Illuminati Watcher. I'm here with both of y'all on this podcast. I'm so blown away and grateful. I feel like shaving my arms right now.
Shave your goddamn arms.
Show us your tummy first. Pull your shirt up. We got to see
no way.
What you got. What do you got down there?
No way. I got a 6-pack of rolls down there. But what is right off the bat, I guess, how are you doing? And what is a Zeta male?
I'm doing good. I mean, we had some trips we did. We went to Miami. We were down there for about 4 or 5 days, and we did a bunch of podcasts and events and shows, and it was fun. It was a wild time. We went to that event where people were getting screamed at, and I thought there was going to be a fight on stage. Yeah, we were at that Fresh and Fit event. So what's a Zeta chat? I just made up some nonsense for a live stream to comment on this madness that you see here on screen.
Oh, okay. Because I was like getting deep with it. Like,
no, it's not a thing. It was just me being dumb. Like,
because I was thinking, is it Nietzsche's last man, Zeta male? Z is like the alpha, the omega.
I did that just to mess with you because I knew you would try to read into all the symbolism. So I just came up with some nonsense that would like send you down a rabbit hole.
Well, I think this is absolutely important. And I kind of want to start it off with one of the questions I have for you, Jay, about what's happening right now. What we saw that go down on this Fresh and Fit podcast is sort of what Spangler was talking about, and the elites know Spangler's works. I don't know.
Yeah, in fact, Kissinger wrote his master's thesis on Spangler.
Right. Kissinger wrote his master thesis on Spangler, and you've uncovered, like we were showing, all the works of the elite. You've read these heavy books. Now, when this was happening, it's sort of like what Spangler was talking about, the Faustian bargain, the deal with the devil, and how Western civilization and Western man doesn't have enchantment anymore from this deal with the devil, the Faustian bargain, and is going to move more into a Dostoevsky Christianity. And the elites know that this is going to happen, and it seems like it is happening. And you got all these different influencers, Russell Brand, Candace Owens, Andrew Tate, just to name a few of the big ones, moving into this religious aspect. What's your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things going on. I'll try to make it quick. I mean, I think you're right that when Dostoevsky writes the famous Grand Inquisitor chapter, he's kind of predicting where Western Christianity and mainly the papacy, where it would go. And in that chapter, you basically have an inquisitor interrogating Jesus. And he says, we don't need you in the religion anymore. Basically, we'll just feed everybody, clothe everybody. It's basically kind of a socialist pseudo-utopia. So we don't need the religious part anymore because we can have a socialist version of this for the whole world. And it was kind of, many have seen it as kind of a prophetic chapter in Brothers Karamazov, which kind of predicts Western civilization turning socialist because of the loss of Christianity. It does tie into the red pill stuff, the men's world, because I think the social engineers try to give all the different segments of society these different plans and things to shoot for, these different archetypes, these different symbols to go for. And in the domain of the red pill, you kind of get this tendency towards the pickup artist stuff and, becoming a flashy sort of dude with a bunch of hoes and a yacht, boats and hoes, this kind of a thing. And then that only has a limited kind of selling point. We actually have seen cycles of this in the red pill sphere, like back 10, 12 years ago. Then a lot of those guys shift over into being sort of conservative commentators. So it's a kind of an odd progression. I think Rollo has even noticed this, that towards election year, a lot of the red pill people start turning into conservative commentators to ride the election wave. But more concerning than all that, and then I'll shut up after this, is this point with I think the concern, I mean, I don't know Russell Brand's motives, Candace Owens' motives, Jordan Peterson and then his wife's, I don't know their motives, but my concern is that they're very interested in Roman Catholicism, and today's Roman Catholicism is more and more becoming this kind of pseudo global religion or the seedbed for that, especially after Vatican II and the movements that they've taken in that world. The weird part about this is that both Candace and Russell Brand have used this terminology of Christ consciousness, which is a very new agey term. We get this from people like Blavatsky and Bailey and Besant and all these proto-New Agers that really kicked off what would become the 60s counterculture New Age movement. And I was just pulling out one of these books by one of the classic New Agers, David Spengler. And if you look at David Spengler's book, Reflections on the Christ, he's one of these UN promoted figures. He's always using this term Christ consciousness. So I don't know if that's that they have nefarious motives per se. It may just be that Russell Brand, was recently a kind of DMT bro, a seeker bro who's genuinely looking for authentic religion, or, maybe they're duped into thinking that Christianity is, I think Russell Brand still.
Welcome, awakened ones. There's a lot of paths. There's a lot of paths to God, but I like Jesus, okay?
I think maybe he's thinking that Jesus is like one of many paths, which is just basically this kind of stuff.
Interesting. And that whole Fresh and Fit show, right when Wes was brought up with some spirituality, he had like a very negative sort of demonic response to some spirituality pushback. And the one thing that everyone said was, what is success? And they said, I can do whatever I want, whenever I want.
So,
how do you define success?
Success is, being free, being able to do what I want to do every day when I wake up.
Yeah, same thing. Being able to do what you want, when you want, and with whom you want, whenever you want to do it. Because a lot of people don't have that level of freedom in the world. So, 100%.
I live the life I want to live. I also with my wife, like I'm married but not trapped.
I know Isaac probably could tell us a little bit about this. What is this philosophy of do without will that we see Aleister Crowley do?
Yeah, it comes from the well, first off, thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it. I'm enamored sitting here listening to you guys talk. I forgot I had to talk. That wasn't a dig. I know I have a smart ass attitude. I don't know anything about the Fresh and Fit thing. I've heard of the show. I assume they're kind of red pill bros. I don't really know though. So I can't really comment on any of that stuff. But the Crowley, and this is the weird thing, guys, is when I started researching all this stuff so many years ago in 2011, when I started taking it serious, I remember starting my blog and writing my first book. And I think it's even in the foreword to my first book. I said this whole spiel about how, look, I was raised as a Christian. I have my doubts in Christianity. And one thing I didn't like was that all these conspiracy people would put this sort of spirituality spin on it. Half the time they would take you down the path of Christianity. Half the time they would take you down the path of this New Age stuff or whatever. My whole goal at the beginning was to discuss the symbolism, research it, talk about things like that, the occult and such. I don't remember how many years it took. It took a few years before I come to the conclusion that, that's what it's entirely all about. And it's by looking at some of the occult, the occult godfathers like Aleister Crowley and Carl Jung. In fact, I'm working on an analysis for that movie Late Night with the Devil, because there's actually a lot going on in there. There's a lot more than what's just on the surface there. What I think is going on is this sort of reconciliation of opposing forces through Pazuzu and Lilith. I'm going to throw that out there. Pazuzu and Lilith. This all goes back to Carl Jung, who was a Gnostic, of course. The Gnostic God. There you go. Man, we're on the same wavelength. Yeah, Abraxas.
I got that all pulled up already, because this was actually, when Jay and I did our podcast, this was the most popular clip of it, was Carl Jung's connections to MK Ultra. So I got it all right up here right in the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, Carl Jung, he's a lot of his, he's a psychoanalyst, of course, and a lot of his ideas you can find permeating through all of these conspiracy theories. Ultimately, what I think they're trying to do, based upon, because Carl Jung said Abraxas was the ultimate God who was the combination of opposing forces of good and evil, Jesus and Satan, all these things. To answer your question, Aleister Crowley come up with that religion he called Thelema. I say it's a religion. It might be more of a philosophy. No, I think it is actually defined as a religion. The Thelema, of course, is Greek for the word will. Through all these years of research, I think it could be distilled as simply as saying the fundamental difference between following the path of the Christian Holy Trinity God versus the occult / Satan / Luciferian / whatever, fill in the blank, New Age, all that stuff. I think, as of currently right now, that it comes down to the focus of the will. Are you self-centered, or are you focused on trying to do the will of God? Aleister Crowley's Thelema, his whole deal was bringing about this new age, the Aeon of Horus, the crowned and conquering child, which is entirely about instilling this idea into the masses and having the masses stop paying attention to what the church is, however you want to look at that, what religion tells us. Because, he had beef with all organized religion, Christianity primarily being the biggest offender to him. His whole spiel was that he wanted man to, they say do what thou wilt is his phrase there for Thelema. It's again, there's nuance there, because you talk to a Crowleyite and they'll say, well, it's not just do whatever you want. It's actually about making contact with your holy guardian angel, a disembodied entity, a spirit, right? Which, according to all the orthodoxy that I've ever read, Seraphim Rose and some others, they'll say the problem with that, with making contact and talking with spirits, is that we don't have the power of discernment. I've got a little side tangent story about, I'll be brief on it. I was in the talks with someone to do this TV show where I would kind of go around and interview different occult people and things, right? It's kind of more of those like History Channel, like spooky, oh, we're going to talk about Satanism today kind of thing. And it was really weird, because the sticking point, I talk about this in The Dark Path, the sticking point that we had, me and the producer, she was like, hey, yeah, let's do an episode on Satanism, and I want you to sort of like be there when they do a satanic ritual. I said, bet, let's do it. And my my guiding light, my beautiful wife Josie, says, you should talk to the priest before you commit to that. And at the time I was heavily into church. I've taken a couple years off, not that I'm like lost faith or something, I just am lazy. And I said, okay, let me talk to the priest, but like, this is my big moment to shine. I'm going to be on TV. Like, I don't care. And I went in and I talked to him, and he was like, the hell you are. I said, what do you mean? I said, you're killing my dreams. He said, no. He's like, the only one man had the power of discernment, and that was Christ. And you're definitely not Christ. Because he was a very, some of the Greek Orthodox priests are very to the point, And I said, man. So I told the lady this, and she ghosted me, and that was it. And we'd been in communication for months, which was really weird. To rewind back, so Crowley says you got to make contact with your holy guardian angel, and this guardian angel is going to tell you your universal will, what you should pursue at any cost. So right off the jump, you're at the mercy of this unknown spirit, which could be a demon, it could be artificial intelligence. I mean, who knows? It could be an angel, for that matter. Like, I'll throw that out there too. I don't think every disembodied spirit is demonic. I think it could be angelic, it could be demonic. We just don't know. That's what leads us into today's attitude of people are very selfish, myself included. I'm not above it. People are very selfish, and they're only looking out for themselves for a variety of reasons, and that's like a longer discussion. But the point is that Aleister Crowley was the prophet of this new age of pursuing one's own will versus God's will, and that is the fundamental distinction between white and black, light and dark, good and evil, so on.
Wow. And this is a great segue into the next question I had for Jay. Because this was so popular, this MK Ultra Young clip, and is Carl a Gnostic. Jay, can you tell us how the power elite are shaping and steering a perennial one world religion, and why are they doing this? Even Aldous Huxley, chief architect of MK Ultra, has his hands all over this with one of his books, The Perennial Philosophy. Which means like everything. I believe perennial means that no matter what like course you take, you're gonna get up to the same mountaintop.
Yeah, it's there's a school of thought. I guess you could say it's kind of philosophically minded, but this would be people before Huxley. It would be people like Friedrich Schuon, Rene Guénon. They're pretty famous perennialists, and their idea is that there is this principle of wisdom called the Sophia Perennis, or the perennial wisdom, that is kind of a superstructure above all of the world religions. So the world religions are kind of just manifestations of this one elite esoteric philosophy that oftentimes is seen to be more amenable to Sufism. There's a lot of Sufis that are perennialists. Not every perennialist is. In fact, I think Coomaraswamy, who was a pretty famous perennialist, was actually in the circles of Crowley. So there could be overlap with a lot of the ritual magician people as well. You know, the idea is that we could, it's different than Masonry. There might be some overlap with Masonry. I think Rene Guénon thought that he could become a Freemason and like turn them into true perennialists. But what he found out, I think, was that Masonry is run by people that are not interested in anything esoteric like that at the top. They have a much more politically minded geopolitical control agenda, is what apparently he found. So he went and founded his own kind of Sufi cult, I think. But the idea is that the world religions have a metaphysical basis that you could tap into that is more high-minded and highbrow than Freemasonry. So Freemasonry would be seen as kind of like lowbrow to a lot of perennialists, but it doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, it's all kind of Neoplatonism. It's all just kind of like overlaps with Kabbalah as well. The idea is, yeah, that there's just all the world religions are just kind of different cloaks that this supra religion wears. So when Huxley writes his book, he kind of sees it as one of the means by which they might utilize this idea to bring about the one world religion. And, you know, other people in his circles were writing also, even before this book. H.G. Wells has a book called God, the Invisible King, which it's kind of one of his lesser known books. In that book, he says, yeah, we actually worship Lucifer or Prometheus. It's basically just a symbol for, I mean, he's saying, I don't think he thinks it's a real angel, but he's saying it's like a symbol of man becoming his own inner God, which overlaps very well with the Crowleyan idea too, because the Crowleyan idea is essentially you're achieving self-apotheosis through uniting yourself with that guardian angel, as Isaac said, which is really just your higher self.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, my mind's going all over the place right now, because I've been looking into all this. H.G. Wells, one of your recent podcasts, I think you even said something about Klaus Schwab and H.G. Wells both kind of say the same stuff.
Yeah, about 100 years apart. It's the same plan, exactly.
Yeah, and then you got the whole Masonry stuff, which has always been a fascinating topic for me. Actually, Alex's movie Endgame really woke me up to that. The more I research it, how interesting it is. And you recommended this book, Builders of Empire.
Yeah.
Where it's connecting
the history text. It's not a conspiracy book. It's just a mainline history book talking about them kind of being the architects and spies of the British Empire.
Right. This blew me away. And it also connected a lot of dots to Rihanna, right? Because in the book, it was talking about how Barbados, which Rihanna is the ambassador for. I'm not sure if she still is, but she.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that. That's crazy.
She's the ambassador for Barbados, and she is at the Super Bowl talking about these Illuminati celebrities. In that book, it said that the oldest establishment in Barbados was Masonry.
You know what they'll do is they'll create all kinds of different sects and covens. The grades of witchcraft are actually from Masonry as well, and that's because Gerald Gardner went through Crowley's, structure, and then when you graduate, you basically create your own cult. So Gardner basically borrowed from Masonry too. The first three grades of like introduction to witchcraft are basically very similar to Masonic introduction. You have the blindfolding and this kind of stuff, the sword, the pentacle, and all that, which is borrowed from Masonry. So, and I think, so what I'm saying is that I don't know for sure, but my guess would be that probably some of the female pop stars, they're probably not initiated into straight up Masonry, because that's usually for men. There are, women's versions of Masonry. I know that, but a lot of times I think probably these pop star women are into witchcraft. So they're initiated into various covens of Wicca and so forth, or even into the OTO.
Oh, this whole idea of Wicca. And then I think this is a perfect segue for Isaac to chime in. But this whole idea of Wicca, all the TikTokers, all the people are saying, oh, it's such an old thing, but it's not an old thing. It's fairly new.
Yeah, that's right. You talking to me? Is it my turn here?
Well, I was talking to Jay, but it's your turn.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I'm happy to interrupt. I don't want Isaac to talk. I'm just
No, I want Jay to finish because I want to.
No, I mean,
I want to talk
I'm
about the
finished.
OTO.
I mean, yeah, I
and,
think my wife
rock
Jamie,
diamond.
she's been talking about this for a long time too. The the infiltration of witchcraft into pop culture, and that it's targeted at the girls, especially. You go on TikTok, like you said, and it's like all of the Zoomers are like, I'm a witch now, and blah blah blah. So absolutely.
Yeah, and shout out to Jamie. You can catch Jamie and Jamie, Isaac, Jay. You guys are going to be having an event in Vegas, June 22nd. It's going to be awesome. Get wicked smart, learn a lot. And also, I got all of Jay's links down below. Go to his website, shave them arms, and get masculine with that chalk.
You got to get some of that chalk, yeah, because if you got hair on your arms, you're not a man, dude.
One
Shave
says,
your goddamn arms.
see,
So you got to look like a damn one of the space jockeys in Prometheus, or I don't consider you a man.
Yeah, so get that chalk, shave them arms, go to prison. And also,
Exactly.
go to Isaac, Illuminati Watcher. I'm a subscriber to his Patreon. Love it. Everyone that I know subscribe loves it.
Yeah, I want to take it to that. You saw Rihanna doing that rock diamond. This is another critical sort of piece of symbolism that ties into all the things we're talking about. Jay was saying Jamie Hanshaw has been doing a lot of research on these female goddess pop celebrities. I think it's one of the biggest conspiracies that no one takes serious. Go back to Carl Jung, of course, again, and the idea that these symbols, they're opening doorways, or they're at the very minimum charging up sigils or symbols and energetically transferring to, we'll say Beyonce, right? Or Rihanna. There's certain positions in what they call the Babylon working ritual, like Jack Parsons did. There's multiple positions that we find, like Taylor Swift, right? There's her video for Look What You Made Me Do. She has her arms crossed and she's shown inside of a coffin. And she literally says in the video, she says, the old Taylor's dead. And this is a death and rebirth ritual for all of us to witness. When she crosses the arms, that's exactly what that symbol means. It's the symbol of Osiris. They show the king Osiris from Egyptian mythology buried with his arms crossed. In fact, they cross I think it's like they cross the feet and the arms. The other symbol that you'll find in some of these rituals is the actual what they call the rock diamond. The rock diamond, if you look at it, is actually a triangular manifestation. You could argue with me that no, it's actually a diamond, which yes, I mean I do see that. I'm aware of that, but there is another theory that this is actually a triangle because it oftentimes does look like a triangle.
By the way, can I ask you one question real quick? Did you see the No Angels video by Justin Timberlake?
Yeah, I did a Substack article on it. I have to sit down and record a little show on it, but yeah, it's a fascinating Justin Timberlake. You're talking about the Justin Timberlake video there. There's a ton of symbolism packed in there for sure.
So basically, long story short, he goes to the club. He starts dancing with this chick. She's kind of Baphomet-ish, seeming to have kind of looking of both genders. She turns into a giant Karelin Baphomet. She vomits black goo on him. He dissociates and sees the other Justin Timberlake. And so basically that one gets fed on by the demons. And so it's just exactly what you're saying about either alter personality being created or the death of the old, birth of the new. It's all that right there.
And one of the things about that video, the Justin Timberlake video, there's actually extra footage. And if you watch it, there's this sort of director version of Justin Timberlake directing this video. He's, of course, watching himself getting devoured by the demons. And he refers to that female Baphomet demon-looking woman with the wings as Angel, which I find pretty much on the nose, right? Like that's how they view this. Everything's an inversion for these people.
Right.
Yeah, and it's pretty wild. So I want to walk people through the idea of this rock diamond being Illuminati confirmed, right? Because in the fourth degree of the Ordo Templi Orientis, they call it the fire goddess, and that's what the symbol is supposed to represent. And let me walk through an example with Beyonce's 2020 Black is King video. I think she also had like a movie for it. The OTO hand symbol or the rock diamond is shown there, right? And it's one of what they call the sign of the grades of the fourth degree. It describes it specifically in the document, and you can find the OTO PDF for Liber 6. And it says, raise the arms above the head and join the hands so that the tips of the fingers and the thumbs meet, formulating a triangle. It's interesting. The reason why we're kind of picking on these females and Beyonce particularly is that another one of the degrees is for the planet Venus or the goddess. this fourth degree where you're supposed to do this symbol. It tells you in the document, it says for other attributions, see Liber 777, which is a reference to Aleister Crowley's Liber 777, which is just a book of various symbols and correspondences that you can, it's like a chart where you kind of work backwards. If you're thinking, okay, I want to manifest wealth today, you kind of find the attribute that works for that, and you kind of go through and say, okay, that means I have to utilize the astrology of Mercury on the 50th day or whatever, right? They have all this goofy mumbo jumbo, right? It tells you to use the 777 book, Liber 777, and 777 is also known as the number for the Holy Trinity. And you see on all these occultists, they try to pervert this stuff. So Aleister Crowley, he's got a sigil for the Star of Babylon, referring to the goddess, of course. You see the 777 all over that as well. What's interesting is that what they're trying to do is they're trying to channel the Whore of Babylon. This is the great mother of abomination that brings about the end times, brings about the sort of battle between good and evil. And she is the goddess of Thelema. I was just researching around and I stumbled upon this website talking about Babylon as the scarlet goddess of Thelema. On the website, it says that Babylon is described as a natural force that embodies the lust of the spirit and the liberation as well, right? Because that's what this is always, it's the sales pitch is always, freedom and liberation from the social construct of, religion generally. On the blog post, this author says that in sacred geometry, the Whore of Babylon is the feminine principle, and the equivalent symbol is the flower of life. And she's this fertile force of Mother Earth and Gaia. And it goes on and it talks about how in the animal kingdom, the incarnation of the Whore of Babylon is the queen bee, which, the mother of all bees in the hive, obviously connected to Queen Bee herself, Beyonce. And the bee, of course, is a symbol for, and there's just so many layers to Beyonce. Like the bee is a symbol for using Freemasonry. It's a symbol for magic. It means literally magic. I live in Utah, right? And Utah's obviously full of LDS folks. They have bee symbolism and beehive symbolism all over absolutely everything, because and I don't think people understand it that live here because they grew up in this faith. I don't think they understand that this, in fact, does come from Freemasonry and occult symbolism, and the symbol of the bee means magic. And Deseret is a term that means bee as well. And you find, if you live in Utah, you'll find there's things named after Deseret absolutely everywhere. These ancient occult concepts, they persist, and people like Beyonce, I would argue, maybe not Beyonce so much, but Jay-Z for sure, who probably instructs her to do this stuff, they understand how this works energetically. And I think that's why you see the symbol being particularly of this goddess worship stuff in pop culture, like from Rihanna and Beyonce.
On that topic, I kind of went back to some of the classics as well. For whatever reason, I had not done a live stream or a video on like the top 5 occult music videos. And I know Isaac's, been a master of that for a long time. We've done so many movies on my channel that I felt like that was really lacking. So I kind of went back the other day and I did a top 5 occult music videos. I went to some of the ones that you're probably all familiar with, but I had not really done a deep dive on. And I noticed that one that you might all forget is Peter Gabriel. This was just an honorable mention. It wasn't in the top 5, but in the 80s, Peter Gabriel had a hit come out that was one of his early hits when he was solo, called Big Time. And in Big Time, he's explaining who made him big time. And as you go through the video, there's a giant all-seeing eye that pops up when he's explaining, I think, that's the power structure that made him big time. Now, that was just a side note, but a lot of these music videos have the very themes that Isaac's talking about. I'll go ahead and spoil it. To make a long story short, my top couple ones were probably ones you would guess. I said that actually the one that you wouldn't guess is Madonna. That's it right here. Yeah, so that's who made him big time. Madonna's Die Another Day. Everybody's forgotten this video, but it plays on Die Another Day, James Bond film, where she makes a cameo in the movie. In Die Another Day, she's actually getting tortured in the sense of like the North Korean prison camp, where in the movie Bond's in a North Korean prison camp and he's getting tortured. But there's all these scenes that when you pay attention to it, this video, it implies that she's kind of being violated. We'll put it that way. It's not explicit, but it's shown like all the prison guards throw her down. They throw her on the table. You can guess what's going on. Then they put her in an electroshock chair. Okay. And then so she starts undergoing this. And you'll notice on her arm there is a Kabbalistic tattoo. Exactly. As she's getting shocked, she dissociates. And then she sees a black Madonna and a white Madonna. So here we have the polarities of Freemasonry, the opposites. All this is exactly what Isaac was saying in the first. It's dialectics, and it's the tension, the managing of these two poles of opposition. She's fighting herself. Presumably one of these is the altar that's been created through the electroshock. I'd totally forgotten all this. I went back and watched this video. And in the lyrics, she starts singing about Freud and Jung. So she's actually referencing like Jungian ideas, integration of the psyche. She gets cut right there in that scene. And so there's a blood sacrifice element where she's cut across her stomach. Presumably this might be part of her torture or part of the ritual that's going on. There's the blood on the wall, you see. And so then she smashes the window. There's a mirror where she's being watched from behind the mirror. She smashes it. We always see the breaking of the glass as an image of the fracturing of the psyche. I don't know what this means, but out of the mirror pops this non-Asian, there right here, this midget dude. So basically Tyrion Lannister shows up. I don't know what he's doing there, but like that's not a North Korean dude. It's just a random Tyrion Lannister that shows up. There's the broken glass. You see her psyche is shattered. And then you see her binding herself with the tefillin, which Madonna's not Jewish, but she thinks she's Jewish. And so she thinks she's a Kabbalist. You'll see in the next scene.
And women aren't actually allowed in Judaism to do to fill in. And I can read Hebrew, but I'll look into what that means.
Yeah, I'll be interested to know what it says. Here she's doing some kind of weird, I don't know if she's doing yoga poses or what she's doing, but so basically she fights herself. She beats the black altar of herself. And then you'll notice her doing, she's binding herself with the prayer rope here in a minute after all this fight sequence is pretty corny, but so they take her back to the electroshock chair, put her in it. This is a bunch of Bond movie references in this museum here where it's like the Goldfinger girl.
Oh, yeah.
Here it is right here. So here she's taking the strap that had her strapped down and she's binding herself to pray.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, isn't that weird? So there's all these Kabbalistic references. She ends up killing the one. And then to make a long story short, she basically finds liberation or freedom because she just disappears. I mean, the video doesn't really make any sense except that apparently she's integrated perhaps or gotten rid of the dark altar that was created to survive this trauma process. She liberates herself and runs out of the MK Ultra facility. And that's a reference to Goldfinger there, the girl that's killed by being painted gold. So there could be an alchemical reference too with the Negredo and the gold there, but I think it's just a warning that they will kill you. And then there's that symbol there, the Hebrew there.
Lamed, Aleph.
Anyway, so there you get the idea is that like that was in one of my top ones. That's a forgotten one. I won't keep rambling, but you probably could guess what my number one was. It was Bowie's Black Star, which I think is probably the most occult. I wasn't looking for videos that have just straight up demonic. I mean, you could say Doja Cat's demons is, I was looking for videos with actual symbolism like that and like Black Star, which there's actually not that many of them that have a whole lot of sophisticated symbolism. I didn't include Lil Nas X just because it was just straight up demonic. Katy Perry's Wide Awake was in my top 5. A lot of people don't know about that Red Lips one from Skrillex with Anya Taylor-Joy. We did a whole podcast on Anya Taylor-Joy because she's always appearing in videos and movies with the theme of alternate personalities. Like every movie she's in, every freaking video she's in, it's all the same themes.
It just seems like every single one of these videos on the world stage, well, now the Google algorithms, is full of occult symbolism when you break it down. And that's what, Isaac, that you be going hard with on that in the Super Bowls and movies, Twin Peaks.
Can I ask a question? Isaac, what would be like maybe some of your top 5s? If you had to pick like most esoteric occult music videos,
I don't even know. I'd have to look through the list. I love a countdown. I love counting down things. I haven't done a countdown thing in a while. Now you talked about Lil Nas X, presumably the Montero video where he's twerking on Satan. Because I'm with you. I'm like, sure. I think a lot of this is sort of being sensational and trying to mess with people.
Yeah, not a lot of symbolism in it.
But if you watch the Montero video, there's a scene where he's in his like Garden of Eden. And if you zoom in, I don't know if Donut's going to be able to do that live on the fly, but if you zoom in on this tree, there's unicursal hexagram, which is Aleister Crowley's symbol
wow.
on
Really?
the thing. Yeah, it's pretty wild. Yeah, it's on that. I think it's on that white tree. I don't know when it happens in the video, because I haven't looked at this in so long. But yeah,
Mhm.
there's actually a
I
unicursal
remember
hexagram
you
on there.
breaking that down.
Yeah, that's so there's that element. I would be grasping at straws to come up with a top 5, but I love the idea. I should do that. I'm gonna have to watch Jay's video. The what's interesting is that, and I love Madonna too, by the way, but but I do have to pick on her. I do have to pick on her because she is the queen of Kabbalah. What's interesting, and Jay probably knows this, and maybe even Donut. I don't know if you've come across this, but Kenneth Anger, he just died recently. He was a very much an occultist, very much a follower of Aleister Crowley, and he's got a lengthy history of. Oh, did you already have that queued up, Donut?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Because you got the OTO. I had the Gerald Gardner to the OTO.
Man, we're clicking, bro. We're clicking. Yeah. So Kenneth Anger, he was the architect of MTV. People credit him as the godfather of MTV because it was a lot of his movies that would kind of use music video like techniques, right? What's interesting is that Jay was talking and I was salivating, waiting to say something. Okay, so there was that, you're talking about the Madonna video where she had like the blood around the stomach. And as you guys know, I'm deep into the world of Twin Peaks right now. And one of the ideas and theories that I've come across is the idea that maybe these because they use the Holy Spirit to stab Christ on the cross in the rib, which isn't the stomach, but one of the ideas is that you see that symbolism put into entertainment as a way of sort of riffing on the Christ thing. And another idea I had watching that Madonna video with you guys was the idea that the white and the black Madonna polarities facing off. Some could argue that this is like Rihanna's video of I can't think of the name of it. There's a video where she confronts the darkness of the abyss, and it's like a confrontation with the shadow. And I look at that and think, oh, this is Madonna doing the Crowleyan abyss, approaching the Corone zone, or however you want to describe it. Carl Jung talked about this idea of confronting one's own shadow, coming back, being able to reconcile the opposing forces of good and evil in one's own conscious psyche. And then, of course, I'm sure Jay points this out on his YouTube video. Of course, this is a 007 movie, right? And 007, Jay could riff on that for 10 hours, I'm sure, about how that's occult and goes back to John Dee and all that stuff.
Right.
Wow, I didn't know that he was it makes total sense that he's the architect, especially behind the scenes. And what I always thought was interesting is that Video Killed the Radio Star was one of the first music videos aired on MTV just a year after one of the biggest radio stars, John Lennon, was assassinated. So I always thought that was sort of some sort of king kill blood ritual for transmutation into the radio being the medium, into the television being the medium for the youth. Because I was programmed heavily through Beavis and Butthead, who's like their house is 322. I'm rewatching all these 90s music videos. Everybody's eyes got the Sampaku at the top, which is like where like the top of the eyes are like, so you look kind of crazy, like those demon faces in the Black Hole Sun music video.
Yeah, JFK had the Sanpoku eyes. They say it's a bad omen.
Yes.
You talk about King Kill 33, and I've been deep into James Shelby Downer lately because he's been talking about this for the longest out of anyone, is the synchromysticism element, which I'm sure applies to all of this stuff, because Kenneth Anger, he was talking about trying to evoke this battle on the astral plane. One of the ideas these people have is to get mankind tapped into the astral plane, which is why you had all those sort of Stanford Research Institute, MK Ultra, all these things, Project Stargate. I was just saying, Kenneth Anger, he was a proponent for this attitude of we need to have this interdimensional battle between Lucifer and Christ, and occultists like Helena Blavatsky were pushing this. The reason they do it is because they think Lucifer, or Satan, is the highest divine spirit of occult wisdom, and the occult wisdom is the only way that man can be truly free from this suffering that this simulation reality we're living in is subjecting upon us.
I was just going to bring up, I had a question about the Stanford research, because that seems to be popping up through all the great researchers I'm listening to, Jay, you, everyone else. And here it is. I kind of want to know what exactly is it, because I did pull it up and notice that even the layout of the place, I see this at Disneyland. This symbol, it reminds me of the rupees. But what is this SRI?
It's kind of like I mean, I don't know about who designed that, lot there or whatever, but it does kind of evoke the mandala idea of the four-sided thing. And that's very Jungian. When they did, they're probably their most famous white paper that's relevant to what we talk about is Changing Images of Man. And I think that had Campbell. So Joseph Campbell is kind of like watered down Carl Jung. And he was part of that project. Willis, I want to say Willis Harman, who was one of the guys that wrote the essay in that Global Elite text that I covered called Millennium. Willis Harman, he wrote that essay about essential workers in 1982, which is what they used in the last 3 years. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
So there's a book called Millennium that is a collection of essays of a bunch of these globalist people. Watson is in there. Barbara Marx Hubbard is in there. Tim Leary is in there. Marilyn Ferguson's in there. Willis Harman is in there. And then his essay on the future of work is like total technocracy. Like he's basically saying you won't work unless you're deemed to be an essential worker. Anyway, so he contributed to this Changing Images of Man thing, which is, again, I really want a hard copy of that. I hate PDFs, and you just cannot find this hard copy. It does exist, but it's super rare to find. You'd have to go to like a library book sale to find the actual physical copy of it. But it was a very influential work from Stanford Research. Of course, Stanford Research, everybody probably knows, is behind remote viewing and all the government investigations into the occult. That was all being done at Stanford Research. The Uri Geller stuff was all there. And then the Gateway process, which I know Isaac has covered, that all ties into Stanford as well. So all this kind of weird, new agey, esoteric, out there stuff on the part of the government, that's all kind of out of Stanford. Stanford also connects to Tavistock. It connects to MK Ultra.
There's also to piggyback on that, because I am crafting up my Late Night with the Devil film analysis. The female doctor who is she describes herself as the key to unlock the door to the possessed child. She's the one that facilitates Satan coming into our world. She says she's actually working at Stanford Research. She says that, yeah. And it's crazy because Stanford is also, they were partially responsible for the creation of the internet through ARPANET. And it's just wild when you dig into a lot of these, all these big names that we've all heard of, and all these sort of people who crafted our reality and pushed us down the scientific sort of path. They all had a very similar goal. And when you read Jacques Vallée's book, I think it's called The Heart of the Internet or something like that, he talks about how there were really occult new age attitudes and goals behind the internet. And a lot of these things have good intention, it seems like, because he was saying that all these scientists were getting together, which, included SRI's location. The whole idea was like they were going to and I'm paraphrasing wildly, but they're going to liberate mankind by giving everyone access to information, which is great. That sounds like a good thing, but the people in the occult or the Illuminati or whatever seem to want to take this to some spiritual level. And the internet was supposed to be, I think Russell Targ said, it was the first manifestation of planetary consciousness. Yeah. They think they are birthing a new species, which they want to replace us, because they do have this, I think, not to sound crazy, I think they're possessed by demonic forces that are trying to kill man. And they're like, I know, man is so awful and we do these awful things, which, I get it. It's true, but we can also rein those things in. I don't know why we don't go that route, but they all want this sort of great overmind, Kurzweil singularity, this digital matrix, the Neuralink, the perennial philosophy. It's all the same thing, I think. When you could split hairs and talk about the differences, but I think ultimately it comes down to that basic sort of idea of, we need to get rid of man and put us into digital consciousness.
Oh, wow. That kind of leads me back to kind of what Jay was talking about in one of your most recent episodes, how I thought it was a great contradiction of the elites. I just recently heard like Jared Kushner says we're going to be the last living people, so he wants to stay in shape to upload the consciousness. But you were bringing up a great contradiction of the elite, that they are atheists. They don't believe in God. They don't believe in consciousness, but they want to upload their consciousness.
Yeah, it's like a pretty obvious contradiction. Both Klaus and Yuval Harari have both said there is no conscience, there is no free will. However, when the transhumanist singularity is here, we'll upload your consciousness to the cloud. So I mean, come on, that's a basic contradiction. And Vali would know too, because he has a background in computer science and he was also Rosicrucian. So I think, he had a time where I don't know if he was always into it or just a phase or something, but he has a esoteric background.
Yeah, him and J. Allen Hynek were both into Rosicrucianism, and I interviewed Diana Pasulka, who's friends with Vallée, and in her new book Encounters, there's this part where she goes over to his place and she's looking at his library, and he has this book and he recommends it to her. It's called The History of Satan or The History of the Devil or something like that. And it's just, I don't know, man. I wonder what is driving these folks that are steering our society.
The original name was for the internet was something silly like the Intergalactic Communication Network.
Really?
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah, I'm not joking. Alex was talking about the other day. It was also wasn't one of the first WWWs that came online, wasn't it CERN or something crazy like that? Yeah.
Oh, you know what else I found? You mentioned CERN. When I was researching for Late Night with the Devil, there was this thing about this god who actually the shorthand version of this Roman god was CERN.
You got Cernunnos.
Yeah,
Cernunnos. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. That Late Night with the Devil movie, I don't know if you've seen it, Jay, but it's dope. It totally occult though. They go into Bohemian Grove. It was released on 3/22, and then it was released the Aleister Crowley 4/18 date as well. It grossed like 666 something thousand or something.
We got a bunch of requests to do it. And so Jamie and I haven't watched it yet, but a lot of people are saying, hey, watch this movie.
I won't spoil anything, but I got two things. One, I'm going to talk about that number 666 that they came up with. But first, to go back to Cernunnos, in the storyline, in the plot line, they talk about this cult of Abraxas. It's believed that there's this Abraxas Institute that was born on the ashes of this coven Cernunnos. And when I was researching it, I found that in Wicca, they worship a male and female sort of form of god. They got the horn god and then the triple goddess, but they also call the horn god Cernunnos, which is the shorthand for CERN. But the one thing I found when it hit me because I had just I had read Pasulka's book Encounters. Donut was saying that on the opening weekend, it was like the largest opening weekend for that movie company, but on Sunday they grossed $666,666, which I don't know if that's just fodder to make people talk about it or if it's real. But if it is real, I find that interesting because this movie is very controversial because they apparently utilized artificial intelligence to create a couple of images on the movie. A lot of people talk about how AI could be us from a future. It could be entities from another dimension. And this is a wild giant rabbit hole. But I was thinking, well, gosh, maybe this is the first time they've actually used AI to create a movie. And if it is a demonic force, I mean, maybe it facilitated and manifested it for it to do that, which is concerning, right?
Oh man, great. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's wild. Yeah, because all the images of Bohemian Grove are all AI. That's wild.
Is that what the images were? Because I never found. I thought I heard someone say that they think it was 3 images used when the TV station goes to commercial break. It shows like a thing. It's like, we'll be back in a minute. And I've heard it. I don't know. I don't know. Because I haven't been able to find an official source for that.
Yeah, I think it's because I look at all the Bohemian Grove imagery that's released, and those are all like, it looks like AI. Like you can look at the hands. The hands are always like got like weird 6 fingers on the hands on the AI, but and shaved arms though. So we got to be careful with the AI, everyone.
I wish doesn't get that shaved arm reference. At the freshman bit event, the guy that was screaming at a couple of our friends, he was like, dude, shave your arms. and then everybody was kind of like, is that masculine? Shave my arms. Why do I need to shave my arms? It was just a weird comment, I guess.
That is weird. Okay.
Yeah, it was wild.
I mean, imagine that being a cut down. I'm like, oh yeah? When do you even freaking shave your arms, dude?
That's crazy. That is wild.
Yeah, it was wild. I want to do a little pitch. There's so many more topics I would like to talk about. So hopefully we can do maybe a live stream when the event, June 22nd. Look out for demonic aliens in Vegas when you're out there. Be safe. But Jay and Isaac will be doing an event. Can you tell us about this event?
We're going to meet up with that dude from that newscast. We're going to get him to help us evoke the entities that showed up. So we're going to be doing
his name is Angel, by the way, which is odd.
Hey, bro. There's barely like 3 guys out here. They're like 8 feet tall. You better get some cops out here, bro. I'm being silly. Yeah, this is going to be fun because we're going to be doing our live events are always like parties. It's infotainment, shamelessly. We have 6 hours of material. It's fun. It's funny. It's also very informative. I give a talk on the dark forces behind today's political establishment in terms of espionage, blackmail, and the demonic. So I'm kind of tying all those things together in my talk. It's a new talk. It's not the talk I gave last year. My wife, Jamie, will be giving a discussion on Hollywood and witchcraft, occult symbolism, the goddess, and all that, which Isaac was correctly saying is kind of overlooked. People forget about this goddess thing amongst the pop stars and amongst the Hollywood crowd. Isaac will be giving a presentation on Kubrick and Eyes Wide Shut. And then, of course, we have Jamie Kennedy doing his stand-up routine and some Q&A. And then we have a book signing, merch, and all of that. You can come meet Jamie Kennedy. He's really cool, very funny dude. He always kills it. And then I kind of do some impressions and comedy as well. So it's going to be a blast. June 22nd, live in Las Vegas. And I think one of my good buddies, made by Jim Bob, will also be coming, who was at that Fresh and Fit event getting screamed at. He will also be there and hang out with you guys too. So
yeah, I'll make sure. Hopefully he shaves his arms before the event.
Exactly.
I've been hammering that joke. I'm probably gonna edit out a little bit of how many times I said it.
I'm gonna bring a razor and live shave my arm at the event, and that'll blow everybody away.
Yeah, I'm going to be there for sure. I'm in Arizona, but I grew up in Vegas and it's pretty close. I'm definitely going to go. Everybody go. Links are down below. Reserve your seats before it sells out. Limited seating. So go grab your tickets now. Also go subscribe to Jay's analysis and his YouTube. I got all those links down below. Go subscribe to Isaac Weishaupt YouTube. Down below, we got podcasts together up there, and his Patreon is fire. He just did one with a homuncologist. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. Isaac, you got anything for people were to go as well?
Yeah, I've been working on the podcast, of course, called Symbolism and Pop Culture. You can get that everywhere. And as you mentioned, the Patreon, I do a bonus episode every month on there, as well as I'm going through Twin Peaks, every single episode, every book, the movie, everything. And I'm actually just was looking at my schedule, and I'm going to have it wrapped up. I'm planning on having it wrapped up February of 2025. That's the plan. I didn't realize I was biting off more than I could chew, but we're going to get through it. So if anyone's ever been interested in Twin Peaks, that's the place to get it. So, and of course, Las Vegas. Let's talk about Las Vegas, the event. I'm going to be doing a presentation about Eyes Wide Shut. Okay. And I know I've done many shows on Eyes Wide Shut. I wrote a book with it in there. But this is going to be a 1-hour presentation. I'm going to take the best parts of the theories, but we're talking about the original book, Dream Novella. We're talking about, it shows up in various film sources like the what do you call it? The Death of the, what's that movie called? The Death of the Red Mask. Anyway, some old Vincent Price movie. It shows up all over the place, and it's very relevant because it's all about the elites and the Illuminati trying to control us, as we see with the Diddy case unfold and all this. So it's going to be very relevant, and it's going to be a sort of a grand poobah of Eyes Wide Shut. If you ever wanted to
you're talking about I was trying to think you're talking about the Edgar Allan Poe story.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a great story. I remember when I read that, I was like, this is kind of like Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah, and the movie depicts it that way. I've never read the book, but the movie depicts it almost.
Are you sure? It's a short story. You should read it. It's really good.
Okay, yeah.
It's not that long.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to it. Much love, everybody. Like and share the video, and God bless y'all.